Ladd McConkey up next, the productive little guy out of Georgia. Kate, McConkey is fun to say, but was he fun to watch in your opinion?
So fun to watch. Ladd McConkey, probably one of my favorite prospects. And watching him, I got like these little tinglies, the same way that I got like about Tank Dell, where you look at the situation, you look at the type of player he is, and you wonder, like, can he really be productive for fantasy? And, you don't know. But like from a pure football standpoint, you see why Ladd McConkey has first round potential in the NFL draft, because there are going to be a lot of teams that are kind of enamored with the traits that he has. He's a good athlete, ran in the 4.3s, small, yes, if, just under 6 foot, 186 pounds, but like he's got still some muscle for him. He's not all lanky. Um, you know, Small hands, short arms, like just not from a size. He's a compact human, but offers a ton of burst. Now, I do think, from a production standpoint, people are going to see his college stats. They're probably going to be a little bit nervous. Now, final season at Georgia, played in, had a redshirt freshman year, came in 2021, posted a solid 447 yards, 5 touchdowns. 2022 built on that, 762 yards, 7 touchdowns, and then all things went south in 2023, which I think we could have had a really solid year. Missed the first 4 games of the 2023 season with a back injury. Then an ankle injury forced him out of the game midseason against Tennessee. Missed the following week. Just wasn't fully healthy in 2023. But what there is to like about him, he is one of the best route runners in this class. He can put a defensive back on their butt because of just the manipulation mid route. And I think that, just generally speaking, showed up a lot on tape and in terms of the analytics, the missed forced tackles per reception, everything about Ladd McConkey, I think you saw translate pretty well both between the tape and the statistical profile in terms of advanced metrics. It's really just those face value stats, like the actual box score, that's going to have you hesitating. But generally speaking, I think it's kind of meaningless when you consider the circumstances.
I'm with you, and also contending with the player that's actually pictured on the YouTube screen in Brock Bowers. That's not Ladd McConkey. I just realized that's my fault for not picking up on that earlier. But yeah, he's he is absolutely a fun player, right? Like you said, he's on the smaller side, 5'11", 186, so a bit thicker than Xavier Worthy, though probably another slot type wide receiver here, which we know can be fine in the NFL. It was definitely more productive working out of the slot for his college career as well. 2.84 yards per route run from the slot, which was 76th percentile, versus the 2.37 out wide, which was 65th percentile. And you mentioned it. He's an excellent route runner as well, and that shows in how Georgia utilized him in a variety of different ways, whether it was deep routes, a bunch as a crosser, and underneath, and those ins and outs, slants, on top of a bunch of wide receiver screens as well, because they want to get the ball in his hands. So again, just a fun player that you can utilize in any kind of offense. He's a good separator downfield as well. 38% open target rate on those 10 plus ADOT throws, which was 78th percentile. Just has a really great feel for finding the holes in zone coverages, as well as how to win one-on-one with leverage and with quick breaks on his routes. So I'm with you. I loved Ladd McConkey. You mentioned the missed tackles forced, the yards after catch, things like that he can do once the ball's in his hands. And you could just, I think, use him in so many different ways. And I think that helps him fit so many NFL offenses, that I feel fairly confident in him as a potential fantasy starter, regardless of kind of where he lands, for the most part. And obviously, the injury stuff it is a bit of a concern as well. But I just came away feeling excited about him, about his potential in the NFL, especially as a potential first round pick. And Yeah, there's going to be some lower per route numbers for him, I think, as well, because, again, he has to contend with the generational Brock Bowers for targets and yardage in Georgia's offense. But I think factoring that in and knowing that he's not likely to be a number one wide receiver in the NFL anyways, and just seeing that he can still be productive with an alpha target earner in an offense is still a very encouraging sign. So, yeah, I came away feeling pretty excited about Ladd McConkey.
I'm gonna like I'm probably I probably have just a few more question marks in terms of the translation to fantasy. But like, let me say, face value, fantasy aside, I know this is the fantasy podcast, but like from a NFL readiness standpoint, from a skill standpoint, from the ability to play the wide receiver, I'd make the argument that Ladd McConkey is probably the fourth best wide receiver in this class. I know there's like the size concerns. He can put on some more muscle at the next level. Again, like a little bit older than some of the other wide receivers that we talked about here. He's 22, will turn 23 in November, but still time to put on a little bit of bulk. But from a skill perspective, from a tools perspective of just playing the wide receiver position, I'd argue he's wide receiver 4 in this class. Like, it doesn't have maybe the flash and the body and the, top end speed that like a Brian Thomas has, but a much more diverse skill set, I think that's going to translate to a lot of different NFL teams that, again, you can kind of plug and play him in any type of offense because he can play out wide, he can play in the slot. I want to see him get to a place where, he's going to have some PPR upside though. I think he's capable of being a volume guy at the next level. I want him to land in a spot where he doesn't get, you know, put into a situation where he's like the third option on a roster. And because I think this dude deserves volume and I think he's got the skill set to handle it.